The Boston Celtics might be cooking up one of the most underrated moves of the offseason, and no one's really talking about it yet. Anthony Simons has been in the middle of swirling trade rumors, and it feels like it's only a matter of time before the front office pulls the trigger. And now, a new trade idea from NBC Sports Boston is throwing more fuel on that fire. One that could bring a veteran big man to Boston while freeing up some much-needed cap space. Let's break it all down because this move could seriously reshape the Celtics heading into the 2025-2026 season. Right now, there's a ton of uncertainty around Anthony Simons' place in this roster. He's a talented scorer, no doubt about it, but there's a growing sense that he just doesn't quite fit into Boston's long-term plans, especially when you look at how much Brad Stevens values defense and versatility in the backcourt. Guys like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard have a clear role carved out. They're solid, dependable, and above all, they're proven within Boston's system. Simons, on the other hand, feels like a wild card. He can get buckets, sure, but when you're trying to build a team that can make a deep playoff run, especially in a year where you might be without your superstar Jason Tatum for most of the season, you need more than just scoring. NBC Sports Boston floated a potential deal that would send Simons to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for veteran center Nikola Vucevic. And at first glance, it's one of those trades that might not light up headlines, but actually makes a ton of sense for both sides. For Boston, this is all about filling a gap, a big, glaring hole in the middle of the court. As of now, the Celtics starting center is Neemias Queta, and to be fair, he's shown some flashes, especially during the Eurobasket group stage, where he had a solid performance. But relying on a relatively untested young big man to anchor your defense for an entire season, that's a gamble, especially when the rest of the roster is in a bit of transition. Vucevic, even at 35, is still a reliable presence. He averaged over 18 points and 10 rebounds last season with Chicago, while shooting over 53% from the field. That's production you can count on, night in and night out. He might not be the most agile defender in the league, but his experience and rebounding ability would give Boston something it sorely needs: stability. And considering the financials, the trade is even more attractive. Simons is set to make over $27 million this season, while Vucevic is on the books for about $21 million. That's a $6 million difference, and it gets Boston halfway to their goal of cutting $12 million to stay under the luxury tax apron. This isn't just about on-court fit. It's a strategic financial play. When you zoom out, this could be the kind of smart, quiet move that sets the Celtics up for bigger things. Let's be honest, this upcoming season is going to be weird. Jason Tatum might miss a huge chunk of it, and that alone shifts expectations. Some people inside the organization might be calling it a gap year, while others are framing it more as a growth year. And that makes sense. This is a season where Peyton Pritchard will get a ton of minutes. Sam Hauser is going to be relied on heavily. Chris Boucher, newly signed from Toronto, might finally get the kind of role he's been looking for. The Celtics aren't punting on the season, but they're clearly looking to develop their rotation and figure out who's part of the long-term core. So where does Simons fit into all of that? That's the thing. Maybe he doesn't. He's not a long-term answer at point guard, especially with Pritchard on the rise. He's not a defensive stopper. And if you're planning on letting him walk in free agency next year, why not flip him now while he still has value? That's the line of thinking this trade idea is built on. And for Chicago, they'd be getting a younger, explosive guard who could easily slot into their rotation, especially with questions still looming around their backcourt. If they're not fully sold on keeping Josh Giddey or are looking to bring in more scoring off the bench, Simons could be that piece. From a cap management standpoint, Boston's front office has been playing the long game. We've seen it before. They'll bring in a guy, use him as a trade piece, and flip him for assets that better align with their goals. Remember what happened with Kristaps Porzingis? They acquired Georges Niang only to move him again almost immediately. It's all about flexibility and staying in control of the financial picture. That's exactly what a move like this accomplishes. It clears some space, brings in a player who fills a real need, and doesn't commit the team to any long-term salary concerns. Both Vucevic and Simons are on expiring deals, so you're not locking yourself into anything. But of course, there's still the development side to consider. Nemias Quetta is young, talented, and has shown flashes of being a legit NBA big. If you're the Celtics and you truly believe in his potential, then maybe bringing in a guy like Vucevic feels like a step backward. But you could also flip that and say, who better for Quetta to learn from a seasoned vet who's been producing at a high level for over a decade? Since his days with Orlando, Vucevic has been a consistent force. He's not flashy, but he gets the job done. And with Tatum out, you need guys who can keep things afloat, who won't panic when the game gets tight, who can anchor your second unit, or even start if needed. The key question is whether Brad Stevens is ready to make that kind of move. Is the front office willing to shift some of its developmental focus to bring in experience and shave off cap dollars at the same time? Because make no mistake, that's what this is, a pragmatic, future-focused trade. Not a blockbuster. Not a move that's going to dominate headlines for weeks. But the kind of quiet maneuver that great teams make to stay competitive without sacrificing flexibility. And again, this isn't about hating on Simons. He's got a lot of upside. But the Celtics are in a weird window right now, balancing immediate competitiveness with long-term planning. And if you can bring in a starting caliber center who still has gas in the tank, while opening up financial breathing room to make additional moves, that's the type of deal you have to seriously consider. What makes this even more interesting is the shifting landscape of the Eastern Conference. A lot of teams are in flux. Some are rebuilding, others are stuck in the middle, and very few feel like true contenders right now. Even with Tatum sidelined, the Celtics could still make a run at a playoff spot, especially if younger guys step up and veterans hold the line. And that's where a guy like Vucevic becomes more than just a cap-friendly addition. He becomes a stabilizing force, someone who can. Bringing in Vucevic might be the best way to do both. He doesn't demand touches like a superstar. He doesn't eat into the development of perimeter players like Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser, and he fills a role that no one else on the roster can quite replicate. He's a scoring big who can also rebound, who has playoff experience, and who can operate in both the starting lineup or as a stabilizer for the second unit. His presence also gives Joe Mazzulla more lineup flexibility. If the Celtics want to go big, they can pair Vucevic with Chris Boucher and have a front court that combines veteran savvy with athleticism. If they want to go smaller and space the floor, Vucevic's ability to hit mid-range jumpers and pass out of the post allows for creative combinations. But let's not forget the financial pressure hanging over all of this. The Celtics are right up against the luxury tax and hovering close to that dreaded second apron. That second apron doesn't just mean paying a bigger tax bill. It means losing flexibility in trades, losing access to mid-level exceptions, and generally operating with handcuffs in a league where adaptability is everything. Cutting $6 million by making this trade puts Boston within striking distance of staying under that line. It doesn't solve everything. They'll still need to make more moves, but it's a step, a necessary one. And if they can get an on-court upgrade in the process, why wouldn't they pull the trigger? It's not like the Celtics haven't done this before. Brad Stevens has shown he's not afraid to make the uncomfortable decision. He's moved on from popular players, made calculated bets on veterans, and most importantly, kept the bigger picture in mind. This trade fits that pattern perfectly. You move a player who might walk in free agency next summer anyway, save money, and bring in someone who helps now without locking up future cap space. If the season goes well and Vucevic fits, great. Maybe you even talk extension. If it doesn't, you let him walk, clear more room, and head into next summer with more flexibility. Now, let's zoom in a little more on Simons, because there's a real conversation to be had about what his actual value is around the league. He's still young. He's explosive. He can score in bunches. But his defense is a liability, and he hasn't exactly proven he can carry a team or elevate others around him. That's not to say he isn't valuable, just that he might not be the kind of piece you build around. He's more of a complementary scorer, a spark plug, maybe a six-man type on a true contender. That's the role he might grow into in Chicago if this trade goes through. And for them, that makes sense. They're still figuring things out in their backcourt. They've had questions about Lonzo Ball's health for years now. They brought in Josh Giddey, but his future is still unclear. Adding Simons gives them another guard to work with, one who can take pressure off DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine if they're still around. There's also a youth angle to this. Simons is younger than Vucevic, and if Chicago sees this as a retooling year rather than a rebuilding one, then this trade makes even more sense for them. They get a younger asset on an expiring contract who could prove valuable either on the court or in a future sign and trade. Meanwhile, Boston gets a piece that aligns better with its current needs. It's the kind of win-win that's rare in the NBA, but only if both sides are realistic about where they're at. There's a part of this that's emotional too. Celtics fans have gotten used to high-profile moves in recent years. The Kyrie Irving experiment, the Kemba Walker saga, the splashy Porzingis acquisition. Moves that were big and bold. Some that worked, some that didn't. But this one? This is subtle. This is about margins, about depth, about keeping the floor high when the ceiling might be temporarily out of reach. That's not always the kind of trade that gets fans fired up, but it's often the kind that makes a real difference in April and May. And make no mistake, the East is wide open. Milwaukee has questions. Miami is unpredictable. Philly is in transition. Even teams like Cleveland and Atlanta are still figuring out who they are. So if Boston can stay afloat, stay in the mix, and get Tatum back in time for a late-season push, that changes everything. Suddenly, you're not just developing young players. You're trying to win. And you're doing it with a roster that's built smartly, one that has balance, experience, and guys who understand their roles. What's also interesting here is the timing. We're not in the thick of the regular season yet. Media Day is coming. Training camp is just around the corner. This is the perfect window for Brad Stevens to make a move like this. It gives everyone a clean slate heading into the new campaign. No lingering trade noise. No roster uncertainty. Just clarity for the players, the coaches, and the fans. And with so many young guys expected to take on bigger roles this year, that clarity could be the difference between a team that finds its rhythm early and one that stumbles out of the gate. Let's not overlook how valuable that kind of stability is, especially in a transition year. You've got Sam Hauser likely sliding into a starting role at power forward. You got Peyton Pritchard finally getting real minutes as a starting point guard. You've got Boucher and Quetta trying to carve out their identities in the front court. What they need is a steady veteran voice who can anchor the paint, clean the glass, and keep things organized. That's what Vucevic brings. And even if it's just for 1 year, that kind of presence can set a tone, one that resonates even after he's gone. Ultimately, it comes down to vision. What kind of team does Boston want to be this year? What are they trying to build? If the answer is resilient, smart, financially flexible, and competitive enough to stay in the mix, then this trade makes a ton of sense. If it's more about giving the young guys full control and embracing a developmental year with no real playoff expectations, then maybe you hold off. But let's be honest, this is Boston. This is a franchise with banners in the rafters and expectations that never really go away. Even in a so-called down year, they're going to push. They're going to compete. And they're going to do it the Celtics way. Calculate. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Boston is buzzing with a frenzy of speculation after a shocking report suggests that Isaiah Thomas, the beloved clutch hero of Celtics lore, has signed with the team once again. Sources close to the situation hint at a deal in place, though neither Thomas nor the Celtics have confirmed anything officially. Still, whispers in the corridors of TD Garden have already set fan forums ablaze, with supporters daring to dream of a resurrection of the kind of magic that once made Thomas the heartbeat of Boston. Thomas's first stint with the Celtics was the stuff of legend. Despite his diminutive stature, he terrorized defenses in the playoffs, delivering moment after moment of unforgettable heroics. His 2016 playoff run, capped by buzzer beaters and relentless scoring, remains a vivid memory for Celtics fans. A time when the city seemed to hold its collective breath every time Thomas touched the ball. Now, with rumors swirling of his return, the imagination of Boston fans is running wild. Could the diminutive guard recapture his former glory, or at least provide the spark that a struggling squad desperately needs? Insiders suggest the deal may be partially motivated by the Celtics' desire to inject instant experience and leadership into a roster brimming with young talent, but lacking a true postseason warrior. Thomas, who has endured a roller coaster of highs and lows since leaving Boston, reportedly feels a deep pull toward the city where he once became a folk hero. He knows the fans, he knows the stage, and he loves it here, one source said. The notion of a triumphant return to the Garden is electrifying, and even casual observers are speculating on how coach and players will integrate a guard who thrives on high-pressure moments. Of course, skepticism is everywhere. Can Thomas overcome past injuries and recapture the explosiveness that made him a nightmare for opposing defenses? Will this be a short-term, sentimental signing, or could it signal a genuine push for playoff dominance? Regardless of the answers, the rumor alone has reignited passion in Boston. The Celtics faithful are already buzzing, imagining the crowds chanting his name as he slices through defenses, delivering clutch shots, and reminding the league why he became a legend in the first place. If even half of this rumor proves true, Boston might be on the brink of a storyline straight out of a dream. A hometown hero returning to light up the parquet once again. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.